Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to this week's episode of What Happened in the DSE. My name is Aisa Omari, and together with my colleague Emmanuel, we will be taking you through what happened in the equities market, the Treasury Bond market, and the corporate bond market. As per always, let us begin with the equity market. Shares traded during the week amounted to 1.07 billion Tanzanian shillings, and the graph you see in front of you just gives us a breakdown of this amount traded each day during the week. Now, going specifically into how many shares were traded during the week, which can be referred to the volume of the shares traded, we find that there are 142 shares traded during this week. Something of equal importance is to know which companies exactly were traded the most during the week, and these are our weekly top movers, people. You'll notice that we attach the closing prices as per day as well. Now, at number 1, we have NMB Bank PLC, and where the total shares traded were 161,269, which is 43% of the total volume traded for the week. At number 2, we have TBL PLC. The total shares traded here were 80,002, which is 19% of the total volume traded for the week. And finally, at number 3, we have CRDB Bank PLC, where the total shares traded were 69,923, which is 17% of the total volume traded during the week. Moving on, we have this table which shows us the specific daily price changes for companies during the week. Now, TCCL shares during the week were acting quite bullish as they were constantly rising. And we'll see in the weekly price change section that these shares experienced a 29.29% increase in just a span of 4 days. As always, we have our cross-listed companies from the Nairobi Securities Exchange with changes as well, such as EABL, KCB, and NMG. And now we also noticed Yatu this week with changes, and this is partly due to some news in which Emmanuel will take us through in the company news section. NMB share prices were dropping this week, as we can see on Thursday and Friday, which is pretty good news for those who are wanting to buy NMB shares. Okay, and this other table in front of us gives us the closing prices as at the end of the week, which is Friday. Now, we also have another column showing us the total price change in Tanzanian shillings, as well as the price change in percentage. And this basically gives us how much the price has changed for specific company shares during the whole week. And now this table basically gives us a perspective on how we ended last week, and so how we're going to begin on this week. And now, everybody, we have company news in which Emmanuel will be taking us through. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Aisa. Now we're moving on to company news. Starting off with some exciting news from TCCIA and TBL. Quick question before the news. What's the number one thing that shareholders look for when investing in listed companies? Tick tock. That's right, it's dividends. These two companies have decided to bless its shareholders with news of paying them their dividends. These include TCCIA with a dividend per share of 6 Tanzanian shillings and TBL with a dividend per share of 225 Tanzanian shillings. For more detail about these juicy payments, click the link to our Twitter page in the description box below. Okay, now we move on to Jatu and Maendeleo Bank PLC, who've released the interim result. Starting off with Jatu PLC. With Jatu PLC, we'll be looking at its semi-annual financial performance as of 2021. We'll dive into some key financial highlights and compare it to its 2020 semi-annual performance. Starting off with revenue, its revenue has grown by 364% to 2.9 billion Tanzanian shillings from 719 million Tanzanian shillings made during 2020, primarily due to a growth in their business such as embarking in banana farming. The gross profits have also gone up by 327% to 1.5 billion from 366 million, while also improving their gross profit margin as it has grown to a healthy 53.7%, wow, compared to a 50% gross profit margin in 2020. Its operating costs have increased by 262% to around 1.5 billion Tanzanian shillings from 414 million Tanzanian shillings, yikes, taking up about 95% of the gross profits earned. This was caused by an increase in its staff and administration costs, which have grown up by 288 and 238% respectively. The increase in such operating costs was perhaps due to the company's goal of increasing its sales and marketing of their products, and so more financial support was needed for that purpose. Moving on to the financial highlights from Maendeleo Bank PLC as of its third quarterly report. Net profit after tax increased by 188% to 202 million compared to quarter 3 of 2020. However, profit margins are still low overall. This is because of presence of high operating costs related to salaries and benefits, as well as other operating expenses, of which have accounted to 40.8% and 44.4% respectively of the net interest income as of the cumulative 9 months of 2021. Their total assets have increased by 3.29% to 100.6 billion Tanzanian shillings compared to June 2021, with returns of profits to assets amounting to a mere 0.4% as of the cumulative 9 months of 2021. Loans and advances increased by 1.82% to 59 billion Tanzanian shillings compared to June 2021, while accounting to 62% of the total assets as of the third quarter of 2021. The bank maintained an NPL ratio which is at 11% as of quarter 3 of 2021, while the cumulative cost to income ratio is at 70%, both of which haven't met the BOT thresholds of 5% and 55% respectively. These thresholds were set to give banks the authorization to pay its shareholders dividends if it has an NPL ratio that is less than or equal to 5% and a cost to income ratio that is less than or equal to 55%. Alright, so with all that said, how do you think Jatu and Maendeleo Bank are going to perform overall for the financial year of 2021? Give us your thoughts and opinion on the comments down below or on our social media platforms such as Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that. And now that the equities portion is over, let us zoom on over to the Treasury Bonds section. The first thing we need to know is how much was traded in total during the week in terms of Treasury Bonds. Now, the value traded during the week had amounted to 41.47 billion Tanzanian shillings. And the graph you see in front of you just gives us a breakdown of that value traded during the week, as well as the specific traded Treasury Bonds that were traded the most with their corresponding coupon rates. Now, this whole week, the Treasury bonds which were mostly traded were the 20-year Treasury bonds, and these are the ones which have a 15.49% coupon rate. Okay, as always, we're finishing off with the corporate bonds section. Now, this week, there was no corporate bonds activity. There were no corporate bonds which were traded. The graph you see in front of you, again, is supposed to give us a breakdown of how much of the value was traded during the week, as well as the specific corporate bonds traded the most with their corresponding coupon rates. And now the coupon paid to investors here is by the respective companies which had originally issued the bond. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope this video has been informative and insightful, and as well as brought value to you. Now feel free to interact with A Trader in any of our social media platforms and contact us in case of any other queries. Have a great week ahead, and karibuni sana.